Well, Razorback fans, it's been a while since we've talked a little bit of football, so let's go ahead and jump into what's on my mind. Would you take 6 wins right now if you're Razorback fans?
You are Locked On Razorbacks, your daily podcast on the Arkansas Razorbacks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome into the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. I am your host, John Nabors. I am also the host of the John Nabors Show, which you can catch every weekday afternoon from 4 to 6 on Natty State Sports and nattystatesports.com. Today's episode is brought to you by GameTime. Download the GameTime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Hope everybody's having a wonderful Friday. I know it's a little unorthodox as the timing of this podcast and it being in a location that if you're watching on YouTube, you're looking at like, are you doing that from your bedroom? I am. Reason being is because of some things that happened with Natty State Sports. We're switching office spaces, and we got a sweet new spot that we're going to reveal here after a while. But until then, which hopefully it's early next week, we may have to be doing this with my walls that are so decorative and everything. It doesn't matter. You want to talk Razorbacks, but that's why we've been moving, and we're going to continue to talk about it and continue to do the podcast and continue to do everything. Anyways, so I'm going to get into basically all three sports here today, and the main ones for Arkansas, and starting with football, because I know football is still so far away, and people are still interested in basketball, which we'll talk about, and of course baseball with a big series this weekend, which we'll also talk about. But I went on a few shows this week and was doing some guest spots for a few people, and just talking about Razorback football and where it's at right now. And I find that so funny, just because given the circumstances of how everything's gone and where everything's at right now, it's like I haven't changed. There hasn't been anything that's really changed. But seeing elsewhere in the SEC especially about the level of excitement that Razorback fans may be, I won't say lacking, but may not have in the same comparison as all these other programs, it's just really fascinating because I've been over here just looking at basketball nonstop. And then even baseball and the side of things of like, okay, well, what this team's going to do, like how good they're going to be, what's going to happen. And football kind of gets lost in the shuffle. And then once you go on somebody else's show and they're like, hey, we want to hear the spring recap of the Razorback football team, you're like, why? Do you not realize that this basketball has been going on, how crazy it is? But still, the question that I think I've been asked more than anything when I go on these interviews, and I was actually having a discussion with this with a few folks at Tin Roof yesterday where we were doing our show, is for Razorback football, like what are you doing? Like what wins are you taking? How many wins are you taking? Is 6 wins enough? If you were to be told, guaranteed, that Arkansas was going to go 6-6 this year, would you take that right now? That's a question for you. Don't worry about against who. Don't worry about how it was done. 6-6 right now, are you taking it? And I kept contemplating that question because I know that I've felt like this team is capable of going to a bowl game. I felt like in order to progress and to develop and to at least give people some hope and some good vibes and good feelings heading into this next offseason, you have to have some sort of postseason play, especially when you're coming off of a 4-8 year. And all things considered, getting 6 wins would give you a minimum, you would think, of 2 SEC victories, which would double what you had last year. But even all that being said, and contemplating that, folks, I don't think I'm signing up for 6-6. I don't think I'm saying yes, for sure. If I can get 6-6 right now, I'm taking it. I don't think I'm doing that. And it has nothing to do with the high expectation that I don't really have for the team and saying, oh, you're telling me if 6-6 it's a failure. No, I'm not saying it would be a failure. But what I am saying is that it's not exactly inspiring. It's not exactly going to give anybody, at least it shouldn't, great vibes and great feelings of that, oh, yeah, now we're going in the right direction. 6-6 is not a winning record. I mean, sure, if you go 7-6, like Arkansas did a couple years ago, because you won the bowl game in the Liberty Bowl in Memphis, that gets you a winning percentage. But given the way that bowl games are nowadays, I don't really care about bowl games and wins and losses. I mean, half the time, both teams are riddled with players that have transferred in the transfer portal or have declared for the draft. Nobody's playing in them. Nobody wants to. You got a bunch of, it's essentially becomes a scrimmage for next year's team, or ways for people to prove themselves and may not have over the course of the season. So I don't even care about a bowl win. Like, if 6-6 means 7-6, is that really 6-6 and going 6-7? Like, what does that do? Like, does that change your mind on the regular season? I guess maybe because you like to have a winning record. But overall, just because of how bowl games are, it's like you go 6-6, and in some cases, even if you go 5-7, you go to a bowl game, you go to postseason play. But I don't think, other than maybe one time, have Razorback fans been happy with a 6-6 season. The only other time I can think may have been in 2014 when Arkansas went 6-6, and that was coming off of a 4-8 and 3-9 season. You had two huge shutout victories towards the end of the season against top-ranked opponents in LSU and Ole Miss. And because of things that have been so horrible, and you beat the brakes off of Texas in the Texas Bowl, it gave some hope. It gave some inspiration. It gave some, hey, this is going in the right direction. That, to me, is the only time I can remember where a 6-6 season actually you felt some sort of positivity from it. Because every other 6-6 season, you feel gross. You feel like, what are we? We're not terrible, but we're not good. We're not fun to watch, but we're not miserable to watch. It just, there's so many things that you're not. You have no identity, really. Like, you might as well have not even existed. That's kind of the vibe I've always gotten. And with 6-6, yes, you improve upon last year's win total. And yes, kudos to you. But going 6-6 and heading into the Liberty Bowl and playing, I don't know, name a team, Iowa State or something like that. I guess it's usually like Big 12 opponents. So, you're facing off against one of the new ones. Throw them in there in the Big 12. Is it Arizona? I don't know. Something like that. But it's like you go into that and you're like, great. Doesn't do anything for me. Doesn't move the needle. Now, there is a big difference between going 6-6 and 7-5. Because to me, if Arkansas was to go 7-5, if I was asked the question if I got asked the question if Arkansas goes 7-5, do you take it? I say yes, right now. Because 7-5 opens you up to where, again, realistically, that gives you 3 SEC wins at the minimum. Possibly 4, depending on if you beat Oklahoma State or not. And with the schedule that you have, those wins are going to come against teams that will make you feel really good. You could be able to beat A&M. That could be one of those SEC wins that you really have not done very well at, and it's been really frustrating. It could be a team like Mississippi State, which maybe you should beat. It could be a team like Missouri because you've gotten tired of losing to them because you know what type of program they are. It could be Auburn, another team you haven't had a lot of success against that beat the brakes off of you at home. It could be Tennessee, which is a pretty good team. And you've had some success against them. Last time they came to Fayetteville, which is what they're doing this year, you beat them pretty handedly. Or maybe it's LSU or Ole Miss. One of those old rivalry games that always has some crazy chaos that goes along with it. You never know really what to expect. Or dare I say it's against Texas. But regardless, it opens you up for a lot of great SEC potential and wins. And because of that fact, when the question gets asked to me, folks, am I taking 6-6? No. Is 6-6 going to inspire me? No. But if they're able to get that one more win and go to 7-5, sign me up and sign me up right now. Speaking of signing up, I know there's going to be a lot of games going on this weekend that Razorback fans are going to be very interested in, especially Arkansas, Mississippi State's going to be happening in baseball. We'll talk about that here after a while. But if you're needing tickets to the game, use the GameTime app. I'm telling you, I've already gotten people asking me about tickets this weekend, And they heard me talk about the GameTime app here on Locked On Razorbacks, and they're wondering, hey, what's that code? Well, folks, the code is very easy. Locked On College, LOCKEDONCOLLEGE. Put that promo code in, and you get $20 off. $20 off your purchase. And the great thing about this app and GameTime is that with the ticketing apps that you see all around, there's so many hidden fees. There's so many things that doesn't make sense. There's so many craziness. They try to get you in all different aspects and all different regards. But you don't have to worry about that. You have not only the best type of app that gives you all the fees up front, but you also have last-minute deals. So if you're looking to just had a last-minute decision, hey, we want to go to the game, they're going to be having deals up to 60% off for last-minute deals on sports, concerts, comedy, theater, the whole smash. You can look at your seats. You can see what the view is from when you have the camera, I guess from the photo that is taken from before these venues. And it is the best when it comes to your ticketing love of going to events. So take the guesswork out of buying NBA tickets or college baseball tickets, whatever it may be, by downloading the GameTime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, use and create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download the GameTime app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed.
You are Locked On Razorbacks, your daily podcast on the Arkansas Razorbacks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, so moving on into the next segment of the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. Little basketball stuff. We're kind of waiting on this weekend. I know DJ Wagner, the former Kentucky player who's in the transfer portal, is looking to possibly take his talents to Arkansas, and we'll see what the visit goes. I have really good confidence in it. People have asked me, hey, we're going to get Wagner. I mean, I don't know anything for sure, but I'm definitely leaning towards a big yes. I would say 75% right now is what I'm confident in that he'll be a Razorback. But as we know, time will tell. But either way, it's pretty cool to see Calipari and what he's done. And I thought it was a pretty cool thing that he had talked about in a podcast, in an episode on the Ways to Win podcast, what it was called, for May 2nd. And this was written by Scotty Borland of Natty State Sports. But we know that he's going through it all. But one of the cool quotes that he had, he said, I took over a program and Eric Musselman had done a good job here. But when there's a flip over and you've got no players, you've got no schedule, you've got no staff, it is invigorating to me. I've got a bounce in my walk. I think I put pep in the step. It's kind of the same thing. But he says that it has been a challenge a little bit. He says, quote, it's what I am and who I've been, and I try to authentically be that guy. And really for my players, I want to outcare every coach in the country. I want to outcare for them. And if I do the right thing, these kids will come together like my other teams and we'll compete for national championships. Like hearing that. His aim, though, is to help the state, make the fan base feel good about Arkansas basketball again, and create hope. He also went on to say, you'll feel sometimes that you're not getting things done. But when you write things down, you look and say, man, I did all that today, and I love 15-hour days, 16-hour days. Now, again, being focused on this program and putting a roster together, putting a schedule together, getting your staff right, getting your office right. I mean, I've got no letter opener. I've got no scissors. I've got a pen. But that's okay. We're going to get organized with all that stuff after we get the roster set. So I thought it was cool hearing that, and then also saw in an article that was written, I believe it was by Matt Norlander, and talking about kind of what he's been up to. Apparently he was just hanging out on Dixon Street. Like, he's living on Dixon Street right now. I have an idea of where he's living. But he's just, because he doesn't have a place. Him and his son Brad, they're just hanging out, living in Dixon Street, off Dixon Street. So imagine that type of lifestyle and what's going on there. But it's just cool to see more and more that we get to hear from Calipari. I know that he's going to be part of that road show that's going to be going on at the university when they go around different cities. I think he's going to be down at the Little Rock edition of it, down at the Hall, which will be really cool. I know he'll be making some other appearances too. But I'm just, I still love hearing from him, hearing all the cool things that he has going on, hearing about everything that he's doing in spite of all of it. Like, just the people that have been coming after him and criticizing, from like whether it's his former fans from Kentucky or whatever it is, or people thinking he's dumb for even taking the Arkansas job. He's taking it in stride, and I think that he's building something that, you talk about the roster. He's doing a pretty dadgum good job of building the roster, I'd say. And I'd say that he's also approaching it in the right way. He's not being lazy. He's not being complacent. He's not being, oh, well, I'm 65 years old, and this schools paying me all this money. I can just take it easy and not do anything. He's not doing that. I mean, he's truly approaching it with a mindset of energy and invigoration. Again, talk is one thing. I get it. Talk is one thing. The guy is really good at talking. He is a politician like I've never seen before, and he's great at it. But it may rub people the wrong way, and that's fine. But the results are going to be in what happens on the court. And as I've said before, when it comes down to success on the court or lack thereof, would I rather have the greatest players that you can get or average players? I want the greatest players. Greatest players also want to play with other great players. Great players want to play for great coaches that put them in a position to be successful not only now but in the future. And that's what Arkansas has going on for them right now. So the point is that I'm still appreciative of what the fans out there that have been so into basketball. And I appreciate Calipari approaching is like, hey, I'm doing what I can over here, trying to make it work, but it's crazy, it's busy. Good. It's challenging. Good. It's what you want it to be. Because this idea that it's easy for any coach. It's not. It's not, especially in college basketball, especially dealing with it. So, but I just thought it was a really interesting article and a really interesting quote from Cal. And I guess we'll continue to see where he goes from here. We'll talk a little baseball here in just a second, folks, but game off. All right, we got to pause. Talk more about Monopoly Go. And I know just what you're saying. Flag on the play. We've already talked about that. Well, I just know that there's so many good things that's going on in this game. In Monopoly Go, you can team up with your friends for timed tournaments where you work together and build up each other's boards. And the more you win together, the more awesome prizes you unlock. And there's so much to get. Unique stickers. You can trade with friends to complete albums for big prizes. Cool new playing pieces to travel boards with. Hilarious emojis for taunting friends when you smash their buildings or heist their vaults. Plus, Monopoly Go feels like a new and exciting every day with constantly changing tournaments and challenges. A ton include their own unique mini games like digging for treasure or a robot Panchenko machine. And there's always new timed events that help you win big, like massive multipliers for everything you win or rent frenzies. So there's always something new to discover in Monopoly Go, so get off the bench and go download it for free on Google Play or the App Store. Game on.
You are Locked On Razorbacks, your daily podcast on the Arkansas Razorbacks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, so final segment here on the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. I know Razorback baseball is going up against Mississippi State this weekend, and I can sit here and do a breakdown of the previews and like saying, all right, well, here's who's pitching because Dave Van Horn is sticking with the same pitching rotation for the starters. Obviously, you got Hagan on the mound today. You're going to have Brady Tiger, then Mason Molina, and this is a big one. I don't think that it's any stretch that if you win this series against Mississippi State, you wrap up a national seed, regardless of what happens against Texas A&M. Obviously, you want to win every series. You want to win every game. But I think if Arkansas just takes care of business in this home series against Mississippi State, you're a national seed. So very important, obviously. And, we'll see how it plays out. I'm going to be there, too, and I'm pretty excited. Weather looks really nice. It's graduation. It's Mother's Day weekend. But I wanted to say that one of the cool things that the Razorbacks baseball team and squad, everything, they're doing giveaways for Kevin Kopps bobbleheads. You're like, why are you talking about this? Well, the reason I brought it up is because I've been so busy, of course, with my new company and trying to get it all going that sometimes I forget to just look at what's going on. And, you really don't have any time to get nostalgic or feel happy, since you're so busy. Not to say I'm not happy. I'm not saying that, but just, there's certain feelings that you have that's during a simpler time where it makes you feel pretty good. And when I saw these videos of Kevin Kopps coming up, and the fact that they're doing a giveaway for him, and then they had the song Heat Waves playing, it just got me in my feels. It just made me think back to that season in 2021. I know Arkansas did not go to Omaha as everyone was hoping for, and that was a major disappointment. There's no question. But I go back and think about that year and how it's still incredible to me that team in 2021 won 10 SEC series. They won every single SEC series they were in. They were only one of two teams to ever do that. And if you talk to any college baseball player or coach, anybody, they say that's unheard. That's so incredibly difficult that people don't even realize how insane it is. So that was a cool thing looking back on it, but it just goes to show you that that team was good. Don't get me wrong. I mean, every Dave Van Horn team is always going to be good. But what made that team the number one seed and win 50-plus games and win all those series is because Kevin Kopps. And if you ever needed a prime example of how one player can make you overcome a lot of things, there's a great example. I think him, just like Andrew Benintendi in 2015, that team that went to the College World Series, I'm not insulting them, but that one player is what elevated them to get to that level. And Kevin Kopps, I don't know if we'll ever see another performance like that team had that year or a performance like that one pitcher had. Hagen Smith has been awesome to watch. I mean, I think if Hagen keeps going the way he has, he's going to be the greatest pitcher overall in Razorback history. Just plain and simple, especially if he breaks the record of most strikeouts, which is very possible he does. But there's no question that Kevin Kopps had the greatest season of any Razorback. And every time I see videos of him, highlights, it just gets me in my feels. I love it. He was a great player. It was so much fun to watch. I know it could have been a lot better for Arkansas, but there was still a lot of fun to be a part of. But either way, get your bobbleheads. It's going to be a good one. Appreciate everybody listening in to Locked On Razorbacks podcast. Be sure to like and subscribe to the podcast on iTunes or on Google Play. You can also get after me on Twitter at John Nabors Show for any questions, comments, concerns that you may have. Keep it going from there. Same podcast time, same podcast channel tomorrow afternoon. Have a great rest of your weekend, folks. We'll see you then.